Welcome to Season 2 of the Cultural Cultivators podcast by Belay Creative and Cultivate Labs, where we delve into various aspects of film culture and speak with authors, leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators who are shaping and pushing the boundaries of their respective fields. So join us as we cultivate a greater appreciation for the beauty and complexity of the film experience. Follow us on all social media platforms at Belay Creative or on Instagram at cultural.cultivators. Creative and cultivators are both with a K. Niki Saludez, originally born and raised in Virginia, is a multi-passionate teaching artist currently based in New York City. His work as a dancer, choreographer, and teacher has taken him across the country in an effort to challenge, connect, and inspire others in art and community. At the moment, Niki teaches at Broadway Dance Center in New York City and performs as part of the original Broadway cast in the Alicia Keys musical Hell's Kitchen. In this conversation, Niki describes the discipline required when your body is your instrument.
And it's hard because, you want to live your life and you want to go and have fun and hang out with your friends. But sometimes you got to be like, nah, I'm going to pass this one. I have a 10 o'clock bedtime tonight. And it's hard, but it's that discipline because, our bodies are the vessel, are the instrument that you see on stage. So if you're not well within yourself, first of all, it's going to be hard to do a show. But then also, you take yourself home. So you don't take this off. That's when it becomes hard. It's not like you can leave work at the door because your work is your body and you take that home with you. So it's definitely been a learning journey too, having to learn how to say no to certain things. One of the dancers in the show, she's also the dance captain, Chloe Davis. One thing that we kind of popcorn to each other back and forth throughout the show is I can do hard things, or every day I'm getting stronger. It is hard and it requires discipline, but sometimes it asks you of that in order to be healthy and well and balanced with something also that you have been asking for a long time, the commitment.
Also in this conversation, we talk about the role New York City has played on Niki's craft, the life-changing ride of starring on a hit Broadway musical, and the importance of showing up, especially on stage 8 nights a week. You can follow Niki on Instagram at Tito Niki, TitoNiki. Niki, thank you for joining us on Cultural Cultivators today. I am so juiced for this interview. I've been looking forward to it for months now. A little bird told us we are your first podcast. Is that true?
Yes, that is the facts. I'm so thankful. I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to lean in, and thank you for inviting me and holding the space. I'm really excited about sharing time with you today.
Yeah, and I also am excited because you had used the word manifested. What was the thing that you wanted to manifest?
Well, being interviewed on a podcast was definitely a dream that I have been thinking about lately, but more specifically, the thing that I've been manifesting are more opportunities to be vulnerable and share my story and allow myself to be open-hearted and an open book and allow my story to hopefully inspire people to live their lives, to follow their dreams, to dream big, and to be vulnerable and be open to the lessons and adventures that life has to offer us.
Love all of that. I'm just sitting in that. It's so beautiful. All right, before we get to your story, I always start these conversations and interviews with this question, which is, which ancestor or anyone that's transitioned on would you like to call into this conversation to ground us today?
Yes, honestly, I'm open and I want to call any and all of the incredible ancestors and people that I stand on great shoulders of to ground me and accompany me. And my parents are still here. And I also just want to invite their energy and care holding onto my shoulders during this interview.
And you're actually at your parents' house right now in Virginia.
I am back home in Virginia. Yeah, I'm here for the weekend. A short little trip, but happy to be home nonetheless.
Quick shout out to all our Virginia listeners. We bumped
Woo
up.
woo!
I didn't realize there was such a huge Filipino community out there. Just out of curiosity, why did your parents pick Virginia?
Great question. They moved from the Philippines to California first. And then I believe it was my aunt who moved here to the East Coast. And my mom and my aunt are very close sisters. And so she convinced her to move out here. And they moved out here and settled roots. And the rest is kind of history.
Nice, nice. Okay, so it's not just all, because I have like this idea that it's all military. But no, there's just Filipinos out in Virginia.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
Exactly. All right. So I want to get to your story. And I know you've been performing and you've been a dancer for a decade, maybe over a decade now. What inspired you to pursue a career in dance? And what were your biggest influences?
Yeah, to preface, like I'm so thankful that I have been able to, dance for over a decade and have a healthy moving body that has allowed me to do that. I can't really remember a specific moment where I was like, I want to be a dancer when I grow up. For me, it was something that I kind of just started doing and I loved it. And I was so hungry and passionate as a young person about it. And I was good at it and it introduced me to an awesome community. It taught me a lot about work ethic and working hard and pursuing something. And it allowed me to have a medium to be creative and expressive. And so it kind of is something that I invested a lot of time and energy in. I remember I graduated high school. I thought I was going to go to college for music therapy because prior to being a dancer, I actually studied classical violin for about 8 years. And I thought I was going to go that route. It was my senior year. I graduated and I was like, I don't think college is right for me right now. And I decided to take a gap year, save money. And throughout that time is when I decided to move to New York City to give dance a try. And yeah, I'm honestly really thankful. It kind of happened organically. And I'm really happy and grateful to say that now I'm able to dance and make a living off of it and something that I really love and enjoy. As far as like influences, I remember that some of the earliest influences were Lady Gaga actually and her music videos. I was an internet kid. I would watch her music videos and I would watch her dancers and I would learn the choreography from the music videos. And a family friend at the time, she had a smartphone and we would just be in my basement and I would blast Lady Gaga and do the choreography from the music videos and she would record me on her phone. And oh my gosh, how old was I? I was like 12. Like, yeah, I was a little kiddo for sure.
Was that moment you think that like sparked the interest, the joy, the passion?
That was one of them, but I do remember I was a kid and a friend of mine invited me to go see Step Up 3 in movie theaters. And honestly, this was one of the first ever like dance movies that I've ever watched. And I remember watching it. And when the movie finished, I looked to my friend and I was like, I think I want to dance. I think I want to try it out. I got the Filipino blood in me and we have the rhythm and the dance. And so that was the very moment where I was like, I think I want to try dance. So I took a dance class, a hip hop dance class at a local studio. I did that for a year. And then I was an internet kid. I lived on YouTube and I would watch like street style dance videos of like tutting and popping and locking and whacking in Vogue. And I was just so immersed in it. And I would just learn from the internet and the rest is kind of history. Those were honestly really fond memories of just being in my room on my computer, playing repeat like the video again and again and just learning from it. I was so hungry and so excited for it.
And I love that even as, and not, I'm not even like even, just as you were a YouTube kid and learning all these skills, from Virginia, from your home, you had the courage to move away from everything you knew and go to New York. I remember when I moved to New York, it was so scary and I didn't have any family or friends there.
Yes.
It's one of the scariest things and the biggest risk I'd ever taken in my life, and I don't regret it at all. I feel like New York, I've said this before in an earlier episode, New York is like the super rich tita that like once you earn her respect, she will give you whatever your heart desires.
Oh my God. That's an accurate and beautiful representation of what the city is. I totally agree. Yes.
But you gotta work.
Yes, come on,
You gotta
Tita.
work. You gotta hustle.
You do. What you just said reminded me of something that a really good friend of mine said. I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something like New York is a city where you have to work and earn its support. And once you do, the city like rushes in and meets you where you're at. And that's where the dreams start happening.
That's exactly, I feel like, the definition of manifestation.
Mm.
Like, you can't just sit back and vision from home and be safe and comfortable. You really have to show the universe that I am willing to take this risk. I'm willing to get outside of my comfort zone. And I'm really willing to show up and do the work.
Yes.
I think a lot of people forget about the action part.
Yes, 100%. It's where preparation and opportunity meet.
Exactly. And so moving to New York, how hard was it to find like your community, really get into your craft? Because it can be like daunting. There's so many people like in New York trying to do the thing.
Yeah. Moving from a smaller city town to a city like New York City is daunting in itself, and having to navigate the subway and the streets. And for me, moving to New York, I was 20, and that was the first time I'd ever moved out of my home, out and away from my family ever. And like you, I didn't have family or deep support system in New York too. So a lot of it was from the ground up. But when I think back at when I moved, I was like, Niki, like, what were you thinking? I was just so brave and hungry and curious and excited and was dreaming big. And I think all of that fueled me. And it felt honestly like God and the universe were just putting dominoes in front of me one by one. And it felt like stepping stones. And I think that's when I really knew that, okay, something special is out here for me and I need to listen to it and work hard and follow it. But it was hard, like finding an apartment and paying rent and adulting and then doing all those things, and also navigating the entertainment industry and navigating a city, trying to make it as an artist and trying to make it as an artist, period. I think there are always those stereotypes of like the starving artist and the struggle and the suffering to make it as an artist, but it is doable and it's real and people are doing it. I'm doing it. And I always tell people like, it is possible. Like, it's possible if you work hard. It's possible if you believe in yourself enough. It's possible if you have the right support system, and to keep working at it and believe in what you do.
And what is that support system for you in New York?
In New York, oh man, I'm really thankful for dance and the people that it has introduced me to. Dancers are built different. Like, dancers have this determination and hunger and perseverance and joy and expression that we just get. Like, when we spend time together, you just get it. And it's nice to feel supported when things are hard, and to know that, yeah, like I've been there too, and you can get through it and you can push it and you can overcome this. And also to celebrate the exciting things too. And I have roommates, and shout out to them. They're like some of the best roommates ever. And I'm so lucky that I get to live with them, because they've seen me at my best and at my worst and still love me and take care of me. And New York City is the place where like you have to have your community to be successful, to be healthy and sane. Like, it is really important to have people there who got your back, when stuff gets hard, because stuff will get hard. So yeah, community is super, super important.
Yeah, 100%. When you can find a good New York roommate, they become family.
Woo, for real.
Yeah, not the crazy ones. Like Just like,
Not the crazy
yeah, no,
ones.
no, no. The ones that like show up for you. I remember I had a roommate who went through a horrible breakup, and we ended up just all dressing up in onesies and singing her favorite love song.
See, that's what it is. We need more people like that.
See, we came from like a musical theater house. So,
Okay, okay. So the energy is animated and up. We love it.
yes. But I love what you said that about dancers because I never really thought about that since I am not one of them, but my mom totally is. And 100% dancers are so used to being expressive and expressing all that
Mm,
stress out and letting it go. I feel
hmm
like is just more naturally easy for a dancer
hmm Yeah.
than holding things in like actors. Oh, we make the worst roommates sometimes.
Oh
So
no.
dramatic.
I think this is similar across the board for all artists, but I'll speak from a dancer's perspective. I think dancers are just so used to like almost like not being on the bottom, but it's like we have to be like our own therapist. We have to be our own like marketing person. We got to be our social media manager. We got to be our wardrobe person, our makeup person, our hairstyle. Like we have to do it all for ourselves. And so I think to be a dancer and to be successful with it, takes like it just takes a lot of work. And I just really appreciate that you can share that with other people, like that understanding of like, this is hard stuff, but like we're in this together. And just to have somebody who can relate with you and understand is really, really, really helpful.
Another question I had about New York, it's so vibrant. The dancing is huge. So, how did it influence you again as a performer now? And you're also a choreographer.
Oh man, it is like a rich, rich city if you really get the chance to sit and explore it and enjoy the art that there is out there to consume. I think obviously like people from all over the world come to New York City. So having that be such a melting pot culturally, human wise, creatively, I think it really expands your point of view in terms of what kind of art is out there, what kind of views and perspectives and creative processes are out there. And I think if you allow yourself to be open to the different ideas, it can really nourish and expand the way that you create and enhance the way you create and allow for different pathways of creativity to happen. I think to like it allows you to dream big. Like it encourages you to dream big because there are so many different shows you can see and opportunities and people and communities. Like it excites you and it energizes you. Like you could be walking down the street. And for me, that's honestly a place where I source inspiration is just like walking down the streets of New York City. I love graffiti and I love street art. And I'll have my AirPods in, I'll have my little iced coffee and playing my favorite music and walking, and you just soak up the energy. I like to think of New York as an amplifier. Like whatever you're feeling that day emotionally, to me, I feel like the city amplifies that. So if you're having the best day ever, it's sunny and you're just feeling so great, the city meets you and enhances that. On the opposite end, it's like when you're sad or feeling heavy or going through something, the city kind of meets you there too in an almost melancholic way and supports you in that sense too. So to me, as a performer and a creative, the human experience and emotions and feelings, those things really inspire me. And being in a city where it makes you feel all of the emotions, it is really helpful. And it's just, yeah, New York City is a city of dreams and it's a really creative city. And it has allowed me the space to also like expand myself and explore who I am, who do I want to be, what do I want to create, what do I believe, what do I think, what do I not think. So I think a lot of people move to the city to expand themselves and to learn who they are. And I think moving to the city has been so important on my personal journey and in my life because I don't think I would be the person who I am today if it weren't for the room that the city has given me to stretch my arms out.
Stretch your wings out.
Stretch my wings out, baby.
Yes. Oh, I loved all of, oh, so many great points in there. I love this idea of New York enhancing.
Yeah, like we have so much in us already. We have so much life that we've lived. We have so much culture and experiences and love and heartbreaks and victories and tragedies. And I think when we remember that and pull from that, we get to learn each other's voices, we get to learn each other's stories, and then we start to learn how much more similar we are, you know? And New York City is so beautiful because it brings so many different types of people together. And like we just said, it enhances that energy, that connection.
That's the spirit right there, is connection. I want to talk about a huge role that you landed in this past year.
Okay.
Congratulations on Hell's
Thank you,
Kitchen.
Nicole.
My
Thank you
mom
so much.
loved it. She couldn't stop talking about it, posting about it, sending us pictures. She was so happy she got to meet you. But I want to know
Aw.
from your experience, what was that journey
Mhm.
like, and how did it feel to be part of such like a huge momentous production by Alicia Keys?
Oh my gosh. Like I have to like take a beat before I even like explain it. Like every time somebody asks because it truly is the definition of a journey. And like I describe it, imagine like you're in a rocket ship and all you got to do, you just got to buckle up and hold on tight as it goes and goes and goes because uh, this process has happened so fast and it's been so life changing on a lot of different levels for me. And it has been some of the highest highs and the lowest lows, but it has been honestly the chapter of my life that I think I've needed as an artist and a creative, but also just as a human. So the way I landed this project, I'm so thankful and I feel so lucky that I get to be a part of it. Shout out to Aurelia Michael. She's a mentor of mine and she's a choreographer, she's a dancer, she's a life coach, she's a voiceover coach, she's a bodybuilder. Like she's superwoman essentially. But I was her personal assistant for a while and she's really good friends with Ricky Tripp, who is the associate choreographer for the show. And I just so happened to be at Aurelia's birthday dinner, and Ricky was there, and good people, good vibes, good food. And towards the end of the dinner, Ricky approached me and he said, "Hey, I love your look. I love your energy and your vibe. Can I have your contact information and can I submit you for something?" I was like, "Of course, totally." So a couple of days, I got an email from my agent for an audition. And to be honest, I didn't even read the breakdown deeply. I honestly didn't know what it was for. I was just like, sure, I'll go. So I pull up to the audition, and it was my first time ever learning Camille Brown's work and her movement and meeting her and her community. And I booked the job, and it was for the very first dance workshop for Hell's Kitchen. So it was honest, like the very beginnings of the movement and the building of the show itself. So I did that. And honestly, at that time of my life, if that was it, if that was my hoorah with Hell's Kitchen, I would have been so happy and thankful because it was a great experience and it stretched me. But I also got invited to the second workshop and then the third workshop. And then they offered me the off Broadway contract at the off Broadway opening at the Public Theater. And that was my musical theater debut. And then we found out we were transferring to Broadway. And then boom, 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 buckle up, rocket ship, go.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wow.
I'm very, very thankful.
And like you said, just echoing your quote earlier, it's like when preparation meets opportunity.
Oof. Yes, absolutely. I believe that the way things aligned and happened and the way that my feet are here, I fully believe that it was aligned and all of the hard work and just the way my life has culminated to that point. It truly is when preparation meets opportunity.
I love that you use the word aligned. You really have to be in a certain level of alignment in order to meet those opportunities head on and be like, I'm ready. Let's do this. And I think a lot of times when people see these success stories or these success moments, they just, just social media. It's just the nature where we are in society. They see these successful moments and they're like, that's it. But they don't see all the preparation that it took to be in these moments, to receive these moments. And I think alignment allows us to receive with open arms versus like closing ourselves off, closing the opportunity off, and blocking our blessings. And so like I really have to like give you kudos and credit and just a bunch of flowers, because it takes a lot of work just to be aligned.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much. I love what you said about being aligned, like being like rooted and aligned with yourself. I think because I knew who I was and knew the type of person I was, the type of artist I was, and was just myself. I was just myself at the moment. I was at a dinner, I was at a birthday dinner, just like drinking and kikiing and hanging out with everybody and having a good time and laughing. And when we're ourselves and we allow that to shine through, because we're human first before we're artists, it is alignment. And I also like to think of alignment as when things are aligned for you, like nothing can get in the way of that. If it's meant for you and you do the preparation and you stay true to yourself, the alignment is going to happen. It's just a matter of trusting in that and working hard.
That part, trusting. I think that's also where like that self-sabotage, self-doubt comes in, is that we stop trusting ourselves, we stop trusting the universe, we stop trusting God. And like you said, we stop trusting that this moment was meant for me. And a lot of that, where does that come from? Capitalism, colonialism, all the isms, that especially for BIPOC and people of color and Filipino artists, we're told constantly we're not enough. We're not light enough. Our noses are too flat. We don't fit this mold. And someone that lived or worked in the entertainment industry for 2 decades, like I totally get that. But like trying to sort of decolonize ourselves and get out of that not enoughness and more trusting ourselves is going to help us to align so much more and so much faster to these beautiful moments of manifestation.
Yes, 1,000,000%. There's plenty of space for us to be exactly who we are, and there's plenty of space. There's plenty of space.
And I love that you guys met at a birthday party dinner. Like, of course it's New York.
Exactly right. Yeah. Also, I don't know if you know, but there are 2 other Filipinos in the Hell's Kitchen cast. There's 3 of us. Shout out to Nico De Jesus and Rachel Manalo for repping in Hell's Kitchen 2. They're incredible humans, super wicked talented, super hardworking, and have like biggest hearts ever.
And I love that too. Like, yes, of course Filipinos are taking over Broadway.
Okay.
We've been here. Lea Salonga, hello.
I was so excited. Listen, we've been here. Oh my gosh. I was so excited when I walked into the room, and like when your Filipino radar goes off and you're like, you're Filipino, right?
You're like Spanish last name? Yes. Yes.
It's real. I was so excited, and it's dope. I love that there are 3 Filipinos in this cast. It's awesome.
All right, I have more questions. What are some of the highlights and challenges of being in this production now on Broadway? That is a lot of work. Yes. That's a lot of work. People don't understand. That's a lot of work.
No, it is so much work. I didn't even understand how much work it takes to put a show together. It takes a village. It takes a mighty, mighty village. I feel really thankful that I've been able to be a part of this show since the beginnings of it, and to have the experience of building a show and then putting it on off Broadway, and then getting the exciting news that you're transferring to Broadway and having rehearsals in Times Square, and then teching at the Schubert Theater, and then experiencing opening night and the thrill and excitement of that, and then doing things like Jimmy Fallon and the Today Show and then the Tonys. Like, being able to be a part of a Broadway show in its like quote unquote like baby phase, to me, I've learned so much on this process and journey, and I'm so humbled by it, and I'm so inspired by people in the Broadway community, because it is tough. It is tough to build a show. It is tough to perform it 8 times a week. It's truly the athleticism and the demand physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually is a challenge. So I would say like the highlights of this journey so far have been the excitement and the thrill of having this show and growing it and having people really feel connected to it and inspired by it. To me, that means a lot. Like getting to perform the show every night is a blessing in itself, but then also to meet people who see the show and hear about how they cried and how they felt inspired and how they see themselves on stage. And to me, that feels like I'm doing my job, is when I get to inspire people and show people like, no, you can do this too. There's space for you, and this dream is a possibility. And I think another highlight too is the community. Oh my God, the people that I get to share this journey with. I feel so thankful to not only be a part of a work under Alicia Keys and have that as a part of it, but also the excellence, the pure excellence in the space. Shout out to Michael Greif, the director, Chris Diaz, the playwright, Camille A. Brown, the choreographer, and Alicia and the rest of the creative team. Like, to be in a space where the work ethic and the strive to be great and the excellence, it just bleeds and it oozes everywhere and it pulls you up and it inspires you. But also the like the funniest, the most joyful, the kindest, silliest, loving cast ever. Like to do a Broadway show and spend time with a group of people every single night, and you're tired and you see the best of them and you see the worst of them. And so it has definitely been a learning opportunity to navigate the physical demand of it and the emotional demand and having to share space with these people at a theater. It makes me think of the challenges of it too, like the physical demand, especially with Hell's Kitchen. It's a really dance heavy show and the choreography is out of this world, but it is hard on the body. And we have an athletic trainer in the building who serves as our, not serves, but helps us out with our body's physical therapist. And the emotional part of the journey too. I don't think a lot of people know that. They just see that you're on Broadway and that you're doing Jimmy Fallon, that you do the Tonys, and then you're out partying. Like, they see all these things, but it is hard work. It's so hard. And having to perform a show and your body be in pain, or your heart is in pain, or you're going through something in your life and you still have to be honest and real and perform a show every night. That's another hard part too. You still have to show up, even if it is hard to show up. But one thing that I've learned on Broadway, they say it all the time, is you got to give 100% of whatever you have that day. So if you're like, yo, I got 40% today, you better show up with that 40% and go off 40%, okay? Or if you have 75.2%, you show up with that, and it's just really nice to have a solid community who's there to hold you up when maybe you just have 40%. Broadway is a beautiful beast, and it has broken me apart, but it has also built me together in a stronger way. So, man, it's a journey. It's a journey that I am forever thankful for.
Oh, man. 8 shows a week.
8 shows a week.
That's a lot.
When you say it out loud, it sounds crazy, right? Like, I want to meet the person who said, okay, Broadway, we do 8 shows a week. Because I have a word. I have a word for them.
Well, this is also why I'm like, see, that's why you got to be doing this in your 20s and not your 40s with our bad knees.
My knees, my little knees. It makes me think too, because of the physical demand that I have to ask of my body. I think another challenge too is the wellness part of it. Like, how do I sustain this? How do I perform this for a year? I come from a concert dance commercial background, and so I'm used to, like, okay, you rehearse for like a couple months and then you perform a work maybe 4 times and then you're done. But it's different when you have to do it every single night and then the only day off you have is Monday. Like, that is a different challenge. So thinking, how can I perform smarter? How can I exert energy smarter? Where in the show can I cut back a little bit? And where do I need to pump the gas a bit? All of it. It really teaches you a lot as a performer and as a dancer.
Yeah, I love how you are also prioritizing your well-being, right? Because it is a balance.
It's a
You
balance.
don't want to burn out.
Oh no, because when that happens, that has happened a couple of times on off Broadway and Broadway, and it's not fun.
No.
And it's hard because like you want to live your life and you want to go and have fun and hang out with your friends, but sometimes you got to be like, nah, I'm gonna pass this one. I have a 10 o'clock bedtime tonight, and it's hard, but it's that discipline because like our bodies are the vessel, are the instrument that you see on stage. So if you're not well within yourself, first of all, like it's going to be hard to do a show, but then also like you take yourself home. So you don't take this off. That's when it becomes hard. It's not like you can leave work at the door because your work is your body and you take that home with you. So it's definitely been a learning journey too, having to learn how to say no to certain things. One of the dancers in the show, she's also the dance captain, Chloe Davis. One thing that we kind of popcorn to each other back and forth throughout the show is like, I can do hard things, or every day I'm getting stronger. It is hard and it requires discipline, but sometimes it asks you of that in order to be healthy and well and balanced with something also that you have been asking for a long time, you know, the commitment. The Sag in me is like, commitment? No. But I have to learn how to commit.
You're doing it. You don't have to. You are like you in your actions right now. You are committed to your craft.
Thank you for the reminder and
Yes.
the affirmation, Nicole.
Of course. Okay. We're getting to the end, which I'm so sad about because this has totally been a vibe. But
Aw,
I wanted to ask this question because, again, this podcast is more for my son. And if you're listening right now, I just want to say mommy loves you. And this interview is specifically for you. So this question is, what advice would you give aspiring dancers like my son who dream of performing dance and thriving in their career?
oh man, that it is possible. Like it's real and it's possible. And I say that now, touching it and feeling it with my feet and tasting it and smelling it and seeing it. Sometimes I have mega imposter syndrome when we're young or when we're like aspiring to do something, wherever you are in life. Like it just seems sometimes so out of reach or not real, whether it's because of social media or whatever that giganticizes it, but it's real. So, one piece of advice I would say is to be yourself. There are a lot of ways that the world, that social media, that the industry, whatever it is, just living, there's so many ways that we can be told directly or indirectly that you're too much, you're not enough of this, you shouldn't be doing that, you're actually supposed to be doing this. And it can get really confusing. And so I would say to listen to that inner calling in yourself. Listen to that voice, listen to that hunger, listen to that passion, and follow that excitement and listen to that excitement because it has something really special to show you and draw from within you to share with the world. And then the last piece of advice that I would say is learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And there can be unhealthy discomfort, but there's also healthy discomfort. I think we live in a world that it's so easy. Like I could go on my phone right now and swipe right and then order something and it get delivered to my house like in a day. Or I can order food and it be brought here. We just have so many things that are so easily accessible to us. And so learning how to sit with uncomfortable thoughts and emotions and be curious about why they're coming up. I think we also try so hard to push away like anything that's negative or uncomfortable when in reality those can be some of our biggest lessons if we are open to feeling them and asking them questions and learning from them. So like I said, there is unhealthy discomfort that is I think okay to avoid, but discomfort can be like one of our biggest teachers, and it has definitely been one of my biggest teachers on this journey of Hell's Kitchen. So yeah, I think to me kind of blows my mind to think about people in the future listening to this now. And so I hope that what we've talked about and shared can resonate with somebody and connect with somebody. And yeah, to whoever's listening, like you got this, you are loved, and you have exciting, exciting things ahead of you.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Okay, last question. What are you currently geeking over? And it doesn't have to be dance, it can become completely random.
Well, right now I'm geeking over books. Like I'm in such a deep bookworm hole right now. I'm currently reading The Power. Oh, actually, I have it right here. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I've known about this book for a long time just because I'm really interested in like spirituality and mindfulness as well. And so I think it is that kind of book that floats within that realm. And my roommate let me borrow it, and it is so nourishing and it's so real. And yeah, so this has been a really great book that has been helping me navigate my thoughts and my emotions and do so in a healthier way. I also just finished this book called The Road by Cormac McCarthy, I think is the author. And it's written in third person, which I found really interesting because I haven't read a book that was in third person in a while. But it's about this father and his son who are traversing a post-apocalyptic United States. Like everything is ash and gray and burnt, and it's like a survival adventure story. And that was the last book I read before this one, and it's a really, really special read. I'm in this like nesting phase where I kind of want to like redecorate my apartment. So I've been like on my Instagram reels have just been like apartment like lookbooks of just like art and furniture and like mood lighting. So those are the two things that I'm currently geeking on
Hello.
right now.
What was the biggest takeaway so far of Power of Now for you?
Woo! So far that you are not your mind. And I've heard that a million times, but to read it and to learn and actively practice the skill of observing your mind and then being curious about like who is this observer that is observing like what's going on in here, and to know that that is like your true self apart from the stories and the narratives that we tell ourselves. That has been super helpful to create that space in order to deal with things like imposter syndrome or thoughts that might not be so supportive or kind or loving to yourself. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest takeaway so far. And I'm like halfway through, so I can only imagine that I'm going to be schooled more and more as I get through this book.
I love that book. I remember like there's the concept of pain body, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. And it like when it gets activated and noticing when it gets activated, that has been really, really helpful, especially like when you're in a show where you have to perform 8 times a week and something like initiates that pain body, and how can we detach from that and not act or speak or respond from this pain body. Yeah, that was a great concept I learned too.
It's a great book to read, like, I feel every decade. Like, every 10 years, come back to it, and you learn or relearn something you completely forgot or you didn't pick up the first time. Another book that I recommend if you haven't read it yet, I forget who wrote this, Conversations with God.
Oh, okay, writing it down.
Yeah, that when I was your age, that was the book. That was the book that got me into this whole other way of thinking about spirituality. Because I was like complete Christian, grew up Christian, and I still identify as kind of like Christian, but also like learning these new concepts of God and spirituality and like you said, like our mind and who truly are we. I believe we're all spirits in human form. But it took me a long time to like get to that point of, oh, it's not all these things, like you said, imposter syndrome and the self-doubt and the negative thinking. Those are all stories that we were told, not ones that truly resonate with our true selves.
Yeah. I too, like you, I grew up Christian as well. I grew up in a Baptist church and I was really, really into my faith. I was part of the youth group
Mm-hmm.
and I was really big. Okay, look, shout out to youth group. Youth group is great. I don't currently identify as Christian anymore, but the more I read about spirituality and God and the universe, it all pours into one, you know? And I'm so thankful for my upbringing in church. I know everybody has a different relationship with Christianity and the church and religion, but my experience, I think it gave me a space and a vessel to express the love within me and learn how to cultivate this love and expression that I had for others and for people and for spirit. But even as I read about teachings, it is all the same. Like it is all like the spirit and the mind are so melded and have a relationship with each other. So it is all
Mm,
one.
that part. It is all one. It is all one. It's just
Yeah.
like defined differently within different
Mhm. Yeah.
groups, but it's all one.
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
also why I wanted to interview you, because I knew we could vibe on things
Mm.
like this.
Like when you said earlier in the beginning, you wanted to dive deep, like that is my love language. I love diving deep and I love going and having deep conversations. And I'm such a big hippie, so I love talking about that kind of stuff.
Thank you so much, Nikki. This was such an honor. I feel so much gratitude and appreciation for this connection and this time to speak and get to learn about you and your journey. And I am so stoked for what's to come for you. I can't wait to like follow you and your artistry and your craft and the amazing things you're doing, not only in New York, but you know, the world. So thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you again for holding the safe space and giving us a platform to be able to be ourselves and share our stories. And you're so fun and I love your energy and this was a really great time. Thank you so much.
I think the two biggest takeaways from our conversation today that resonated with me was first, divine timing. We all have those moments when we're working so hard, putting our hearts and souls into our dreams, and yet it feels like nothing's happening. That's when we need to remember Niki's story. He did the prep work, both mentally and physically, but the real magic happened when he least expected it, at a random birthday party of all places, where he just happened to meet someone connected to the musical Hell's Kitchen. I don't think that was luck, and I don't believe in coincidence. That was divine timing. I have a similar story of when I first started comedy and stand-up comedy. I actually got to meet Dave Chappelle at the SF Punchline. I was just an audience member at the time, and just 6 months into my stand-up comedy craft, when he called me out in the audience and he asked me a question of what I did for a living. I brought it back to a joke he had just told about, of all things, hot dog vendors, and said I was a hot dog vendor. He laughed, but then after his show, he pulled me aside with my boyfriend at the time and asked me what I really did for a living. And I told him I just started doing stand-up, and he was a huge inspiration for me. At that moment, he asked me to open for him the remaining nights at the SF Punchline. I was so juiced. I was so excited and so scared. I had just started doing stand-up, and this was my idol asking me to open for him. I, of course, said yes. And then I showed up the next day, so naive. And the Punchline denied me. They said, no, we don't know who you are. We don't know if you're funny. You cannot open for Dave Chappelle. I left the Punchline almost in tears, super deflated, and I didn't get to open for him. But 1 year later, again, I was watching one of his shows at the SF Punchline, and his manager, assistant road manager, someone in his team recognized me, pulled me aside, and said, hey, come talk to Dave after the show. As soon as Dave saw me, he said, Max, which he called me at the time, why didn't you open for me? And And I had to explain the punchline wouldn't let me open for you. The punchline wouldn't even let me in. So that night, he put me on the list. He made sure I opened for him for the remainder of the shows at the San Francisco Punchline. It was almost a whole year later when I finally got the opportunity. But I'm so happy that divine timing worked out that way because I was in no shape to open for him just 6 months into doing stand-up. I'm glad I had that whole year to work on a tight 7 minutes, to work on my routine, to work on my confidence and voice as a stand-up comedian. And really, divine timing saved me. I don't think Dave Chappelle would have asked me to keep opening for him if he had seen me go up that first time he asked. I'm so happy divine timing worked out the way it did, because even though it deflated my ego a little bit that first time I met him, it worked out exactly how it should the second time I met him. And after that, he continued to ask me to open for him at the San Francisco Punchline, at the New Parish, wherever he was and I was in New York City. And I think these stories and Niki's stories, they're beautiful reminders that the universe is always conspiring in our favor, even when it seems like things aren't moving fast enough. And we, as active participants, need to just trust the process and keep showing up to do the work, to work on our craft, be the best that we can be prepared. And that when the time aligns, the opportunities will present themselves and we'll be ready. The other lesson I took away from this was the courage to take risk. Niki's courage to take a risk and follow his dreams by moving to New York is a powerful reminder that sometimes the boldest decisions lead to the most transformative journeys. It takes immense bravery to step into the unknown, to leave behind the familiar in pursuit of something greater than us. And Niki's leap of faith isn't just about chasing a dream. It's about trusting that spark inside of you is worth the risk. His story inspires us all to listen to that inner voice even when the path ahead is uncertain. Because it's often in those daring moments we find our true potential. You know, this reminds me of a moment when I first moved to New York. I had no friends, no family, no job lined up, no agents, nothing. And I had a really hard time transitioning those first 3 years. I remember this one Thanksgiving, I had no money and I couldn't even afford to fly back home to be with my family in California. So luckily, Dave Chappelle was in town with his family, and he invited me to spend it with him and his family at the top of the Standard. I was still so depressed and so sad I couldn't be with my family. I was questioning my move to the East Coast and sort of sharing these feelings with him, with my sadness. And I was questioning, was it even worth being away from my family? He said something that always stuck with me. Dave said, sometimes our dreams require us to take leaps of faith. And when our dreams are so big, we are required to leap further and higher than we ever thought possible. I'd like to add something to this idea of leaping outside of our comfort zones. Because when we leap higher and further than we ever thought possible, we also get to trust ourselves and trust that the universe, that God, that our ancestors will catch us and leap with faith. You can follow Niki on Instagram at Tito Niki, TitoNiki. Cultural Cultivators is hosted by me, Nicole Saliver. You can follow me at Kindred Capois or follow us at cultural.cultivators on Instagram. This podcast is co-produced by John Reyes, Kindred Capois, and Belay Creative, and it is a product of Cultivate Labs. Stay in touch at belaycreative.org.